How do you know if your beloved wife is cheating on you and sleeping with her personal stud on the side? There's only one answer to that. If you're a man, that is. You don't know she's cheating. If you knew, you'd bust some guy's head in or something and divorce the bitch, wouldn't you? But there comes a point in some men's lives when they suddenly discover what's going on behind their backs. And that first discovery can come in the most unexpected ways. Take me, for example. In those days, Sunday mornings always went the same way. Stella, my wife, would leave early in the morning to play golf with her little foursome. My foursome plays on Saturday mornings. Once upon a time, we all played on the same day, but a few years ago, the girls decided that Saturday was better spent shopping. So they switched to Sunday. I got out of bed around 9. Good thing I made it through the evening. But I wasn't feeling well that morning. How Stella managed to get up at that hour, God only knows. We didn't get home until almost 3, and then we had a good session. Stella gets, shall we say, horny when she's had a few drinks. I went to the kitchen and was pleased to see that Stella had left coffee for me. Then I started making my Sunday morning roast. Toast, to be exact. I'm not much of a cook. Sausage, eggs, bacon, and a fried slice. I wouldn't take fry bread if Stella was making it. "It's overdone," she said. I was sitting there enjoying my feast when something caught my eye. A bottle of tomato ketchup I had just pulled out of the cupboard. A new bottle of tomato ketchup that I had to open because I finished off the last one Friday night after we got home from the store. A new bottle of tomato ketchup that Stella had to buy specifically for Saturday in town because we forgot to buy it at Asda on Friday. A bottle that said Asda Smart Price on the label, whereas it should have said Morrison's Better Buy. That Asda label popped up and bit me. On Saturday morning, Stella went shopping in town with her girlfriends as usual and supposedly bought some ketchup there. But the store in town was called Morrison's, and the Asda supermarket was on a side road, in the wrong direction. Stella wouldn't drive nearly 15 miles round trip to the Asda store to buy a bottle of ketchup. She'd buy it at Morrison's in town. If she was out shopping with her friends all morning, why the hell would she drive to Asda for a bottle of tomato ketchup? We were at Asda on Friday night for our weekly shopping, and she picked up a few things in the George clothing department. She said she didn't like anything else there, so why would she go back there? Well, I could only assume that one of the other girls wanted to buy something there and pretty much forgot about it until the following Wednesday. I was sitting in the office cafeteria during lunch when I heard some guy at the next table chattering. "Jesus, this is one hell of a store. No money or love will get you a room there on a weekend." "Where else is it?" another voice asked. "It's the new motor lodge they built on the bypass, right next door to the Asda supermarket. I wanted to rent a room there on Saturday to pick Ruby up from dispatch for a couple hours, but couldn't get in there for money or love," said the first voice. "For damn good sex, you mean? Look, if her old man catches you, you're in for a high jump. Did you hear what happened to the last guy he caught her with?" I stopped listening. After that, my thoughts took a leap of faith on their own. No, Stella wouldn't. Jesus. We've been married for almost 25 goddamn years. Stella loves me. And the kids. She wouldn't, would she? But that explains that damn bottle of tomato ketchup from Asda. No, come on. That's fucking stupid. What the hell made my mind even think about that? But it was thinking about it. The damn thoughts wouldn't go away. Damn, I had to know, but how was I going to find out? All day long, that thought kept me on my toes. I got home from work, and while Stella prepared our evening meal, I sat and watched her. God, she was a beautiful woman. She had gotten her figure back after the kids were born and hadn't lost it since. Yes, she had put on a few pounds, but they were almost all in the right places. Not many women looked as good as she did at 45. Christ, she outshone all her girlfriends. I'd seen their husbands look up to her, and in the past, I'd felt proud. Now, however, I was definitely feeling anxious. Stella asked if I was okay, and I said I was fine, just a little tired. She gave me a hug and a kiss, and then told me that an early nap wouldn't hurt. Well, that night, for the first time in 28 years, the baby didn't get up and play ball. But that night, Nothing went right in bed. Stella tried to reassure me that maybe it was just because I was working too hard and I said I'd go to the doctor. But I knew that wasn't really the case. I had convinced myself that Stella was cheating on me. In the morning, Stella tried again, but he wasn't going to play. I was sure the little guy wouldn't play again until I knew for sure what was going on. For the next few days, I ran that thought through my head. Could Stella really be running around behind my back? Honestly, it was gnawing at me from the inside out, and I knew I had to talk to someone about it. In the end, I decided to discuss it with young Danny. Danny wasn't really that young, but he was 10 years younger than the rest of us. He was about 35, and although he had been on my team for almost 12 years, he was the youngest of them all. He had gotten divorced a couple years ago when he caught his wife cheating. I decided he was the best person to test my suspicions. Danny immediately took everything seriously. He understood my concerns and suggested I meet Stella the following Saturday. Danny would take my place in the golf foursome. He'd filled in for me before when one of the guys went on vacation or something. Then I could use his car to follow Stella. She wouldn't be able to recognize me since Danny's BMW had tinted windows. It's illegal in England, of course, but the cops stopped stopping him after a while. So much for enforcing automobile laws. But it was convenient for me. Saturday morning, I got up early, as usual, and drove to the golf club to swap cars with Danny. By 8:15, I was parked in the driveway to my house, waiting to see what would happen. Around 9, Stella came out and got into her car. Theoretically, she should have followed her friends, since I thought they went on Saturday car rides. But today, she drove straight to a large parking lot in town. There, she parked in a secluded corner and got in her car to wait. I parked so that I could watch her and began to wait as well. About 10 minutes later, a car pulled up in front of her. I was already on edge. I didn't like where she parked. It was a quiet part of the parking lot, furthest away from the stores. The car started up again, and Stella followed her to the other side of the parking lot. Then they parked next to each other. The doors of the other car opened and 4 of Stella's shopping buddies got out. Then all 5 of them headed off in the direction of the stores. Good, you say. That proves my suspicions wrong. But something still wasn't quite what I thought it was. Why did Stella take her car? I remember that all 5 of them used to drive together. But why 2 cars today if they all lived in the same direction? It just didn't make sense. I sat there for 3 hours until they came back. Then I followed both cars out to the Asda store on the side road. They stayed there for about 3/4 of an hour. Then they all got out and I followed Stella home. Feeling very silly and very relieved, I drove back to the golf club and swapped cars with Danny again before heading home. Stella greeted me, as always, with hugs and kisses. Then, to my surprise, she wanted to come up and have a little session. I have to say the little guy felt much happier than he had all week as he was a little bored and ready to go. So we came over and played for a couple hours. I think Stella was trying to kill me with love. I barely made it into the bedroom before she pulled my pants off. Now I knew something was going on. Or rather, my suspicions were heightened again. She didn't realize that the more she encouraged me, the more I was convinced she was up to something behind my back. I decided that her feminine intuition had alerted her to my suspicions. Now she was trying to prove what a loving wife she was. Saturday evening, we went out to dinner with the kids. They are both married and had their spouses with them. We had a great evening and went to a nightclub. There were a lot of young people there, so Stella and I headed home around midnight. Stella tried to wear me out again, but when I woke up, she had already left for her golf match. That Sunday, I didn't bother to make breakfast. I left the house as soon as I could and headed to the clubhouse, parking on a hill that overlooked most of the course. Using the telephoto lens on my old 35mm camera, I scanned the greens. There she was with her par 4 on the 7th green, exactly where I expected to see them at this time. I sat back and watched her for the next hour or so. God, she's as good on the golf course as she is in bed, I thought. Why the hell had I never thought of us playing mixed doubles on the weekends? Heck, I thought, if my fears turn out to be wrong, I'll talk to the boys about it." On the way home, I stopped and had breakfast at the cafe, and by the time Stella got home, I was cutting the grass in the backyard. She made tea and called me over to drink it. I sat and watched her again as she prepared our evening meal. She must have sensed that I was watching her. She suddenly turned around and asked, "Are you okay, honey?" "I'm fine. Why do you ask?" "I don't know. You seem a little distant lately." "I don't think I was very far away from you yesterday or last night." "No, but you've been out of sorts all week." "Busy at work, I guess. We have some big projects to complete in the next month or so. I suppose I'll soon have to work late again every week until they're finished." "Oh, I don't think it's about the projects. You'll deal with the Greenway job, no problem, and the Pattersons have never given you any trouble in the past. Anything else upset you?" "It sure as hell looks like it," thought I. How the hell does Stella know that Greenways and Pattersons are the two projects my team is working on? That's supposed to be top damn secret. I never told Stella the names of the companies we were working for. It wasn't that I hadn't trusted her in the past. It's just that it was confidential information. No one on our team discusses it with their wives. We're not supposed to. I suddenly thought that maybe someone was discussing work with their mistress. Oh, fucking shit! That evening, the baby stopped playing ball again, and I told Stella that I would definitely go to the doctor that week. All that week, I watched the rest of my crew closely, trying to figure out who was who. And at the end of the week, I went and checked out this place, fucking Motor Lodge. I found who I was looking for surprisingly easily. After looking around at all my co-workers, I realized it could only be one person. So the next Saturday morning, when I supposedly drove to my golf game, I didn't sleep a wink. And there he was, parked on a side curve, waiting for me to drive by. A black BMW with tinted windows. I just drove around the block, then parked and waited. 10 minutes later, my old CB radio crackled and one of my 3 spies reported that they had touched down. We cautiously followed them to the Asda supermarket where Danny had parked the BMW. Stella and he walked across the road to the Motor Lodge. I must admit, I couldn't understand why they had paid for a room at the Motor Lodge. Our double bed was at home. Perhaps Stella felt guilty about using my bed. The 4 of us waited until Danny and Stella were out of sight. Then I went over and unlocked Danny's car. He kept a spare set of keys to his car in a desk in his office. But he worked on my team, and I had keys to everything. I unscrewed the cap on the fuel tank and poured 4 jars of thick honey into it, then added 2 bags of sugar just to make sure. I know it's overkill, but I really enjoy doing it. No matter what happens, Bima will be out of the driveway for a while, and Danny will have a heck of a garage bill. Then I headed over to the Motor Lodge with 3 of my golf buddies as backup. I guess they were there to make sure I didn't get too carried away and get jail time for murder or something. A visit to the Motor Lodge during the week allowed me to get a duplicate key to the room Danny had reserved. He'd done something stupid by putting the hotel payment on his corporate card. I had access to his bills and receipts. Danny always booked the same room because from there he could see his beloved BMW parked in the Asda parking lot. I had no trouble asking for the same room and then slipping away and making a duplicate key. My only fear was that he might recognize my car parked next to his. He should have checked his car as soon as he entered the room. But apparently he didn't notice my car. I quietly unlocked the door and slowly opened it. Because of the layout of the room, they couldn't see the door from the bed. On Thursday, I oiled the hinges and the lock. Surprisingly, they were not on the main bed. Stella was kneeling on the couch with her hands on the back of it, looking out the window. Danny was standing behind her. There was an indoor porn movie on the TV. I think the noise from the TV helped hide our entrance. I heard Danny say, "Come on, Stella, please let me." "You let him." "No," Stella replied. "I already told you that only Roger has it. If you keep asking for it, that's the end of it. You won't get anything in the future. I've already told you that I'm only doing this because you're a friend." "Stop it, Stella. You went with me to get decent sex." "You've got to be kidding me. Roger will outdo you any day." Fuck you. I'll show you who knows how to have fun. Before he could say anything, my boot made firm contact with his balls. His breath caught as he jumped forward. Stella's head hit the window with such force I thought the glass was going to shatter. Danny rolled off her onto the floor, and I threw a few punches with my legs and arms until my friends realized Danny had had enough and held me back. I saw a sheet fly through the air towards Stella, and one of my friends said, "Cover yourself up, slut." Stella looked at me, trying to focus her eyes. She was clearly stunned that she had hit her head on the window. When she finally recognized me, she shrieked and burst into tears. I just turned away, and my 3 friends and myself left the room. As we walked down the hallway, several heads appeared from other rooms. They were probably alerted by Stella's screams. But no one said anything to us as we left the building. We went back to our cars and drove away. On the way to the house, I saw a police car and an ambulance drive past me, going in the opposite direction with sirens blaring. 2 hours later, a police car pulled up to the house, and Stella and a policewoman got out of it. They came through the front door and found me sitting in the kitchen drinking tea. Stella just stood there, and the policewoman spoke. "Your wife is scared to come home. She's afraid you might hurt her." Without looking up, I said, "Stella, in the 25 years of our marriage, have I ever once raised a hand against you?" Stella did not answer. "Have I?" I asked, but much more insistently. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed the policewoman's hand move to her belt where her cane was. "No, you never showed me any violence," Stella almost whispered. "When I caught you sleeping with your stallion this morning, did I raise my hand to you?" "No, you didn't touch me." "Then what makes you think I would raise my hand to the woman I now love?" "Roger, does that mean you're going to forgive me?" "Not the slightest hope, girl. I'll be out of here as soon as the boys get back with the van. I saw my lawyer earlier in the week. He's already started acting. I'll let you explain what happened to the kids. See how you can make it look like I caught you in a hotel room being entertained by that asshole, like it was all my fault." Stella collapsed onto the policewoman who was supporting her. "I think your wife should see a doctor," the officer said. "The doctor's number is on the board over there. I don't have time to call him. I think my friends just arrived with the van." I spent the next hour or so busy packing and moving my gear. Another police car arrived, and most of the time we worked surrounded by 4 police officers, one of whom was in the break room with Stella, while the other 2 watched me and helped me move my stuff into the van. To our surprise, our doctor showed up and joined Stella in the break room. By 4 o'clock, the van was loaded, and I headed to the apartment I had rented. At 9 in the evening, my son arrived to see me. I can only assume that the police must have given him my new address, since I had to give it to him. Although they never once mentioned what I had done to Danny, it was obvious that they knew who was responsible and so asked for my new address. My son said his mother told him what she had done. He said he was very upset with her, but she was his mother. According to him, when Stella told her sister about it, my daughter just walked out of the house in tears and said she never wanted to see her mother again. I told him that maybe in a few days she would change her mind. He asked what I was going to do, and I told him that the only thing I could do was divorce his mother. I hoped she wouldn't resist, and we could go down the path of irreconcilable differences, as that was the easiest and cheapest way. He hugged me, we both cried a little, and then he left. That's how it all happened. The divorce only took a few months. There was no alimony in the settlement agreement, so Stella couldn't afford to stay in the house. I paid her half the market value and moved back in, and she moved in with my son's family. From what he says, his wife keeps Stella on a short leash. Personally, I believe that my son and his wife are hoping that we will be together again someday. From that day to this day, I have not spoken to Stella. My son tells me that she has not come up with an explanation or excuse as to why she was dating Danny. He believes that she herself doesn't know why she did it. He suggested to me that Stella might have had a midlife crisis, but I wonder if it has something to do with the hormonal changes women go through. Tomorrow, we will both be at my granddaughter's christening. My son has asked me to come alone. Since I often go out in the evenings, I think they think I have a female friend. I don't enlighten them, as I'm sure it upsets Stella. I suppose I'll have to talk to her sometime. Young Danny? He quit his job. Some guys from my team visited him in the hospital and said he'd end up there if he tried to go back to the office. He would have been fired anyway, since our contracts are pretty strict about fraternization. Besides, from what I understand, Danny was also beating off someone else's wife. For some reason, the guys on the team didn't tell me about it. I'm sure some of them feel guilty. They knew what was going on with the other woman, and they knew I would have put a stop to it. Most likely, I would have found out about Danny and Stella in the process. For whatever reason, Danny refused to press assault charges. I know the police were very unhappy about that. I also found out that it was his ex-wife who caught him in bed with his neighbor, not the other way around like he told us. What's going to happen now? God only knows. According to the company bank statements, Danny rented this room every Saturday for almost a year. I love Stella, but I don't think I could ever get over what she did. I know I miss her like crazy, but I doubt I could ever trust her again. I suppose I could offer to sleep with her from time to time, but on the condition that she doesn't get anything on the side. I don't want to catch anything if I can help it. Oh well, life goes on. But sometimes I wish I had a weakness for tomato ketchup.